The Catalyst Mask is actually fixed now. That means we can use it on many different builds. I'm already doing that. I have an Undirected build, an Eclipse Protocol build, heck, even a Striker build out there that is doing really well with the Catalyst Mask. Now, there is another gear set that utilizes the Catalyst Mask fully, which is Hunter's Fury. Hunter's Fury does a great job at keeping the stacks active pretty much at all times. And if you use the Backfire SMG with it, it absolutely destroys any content you throw at it. Especially if you're a solo player and you don't have this build, then you're missing out. Now, you can actually take this build to legendary content, but I wouldn't say that go out there and do legendary solo. But if you do have a friend or like a clan member or something who is complementing your build, then yes, you can destroy legendary content with this, because you do have some serious damage on this build and some survivability too at the same time in terms of armor on kill. Now, you don't need modifiers for this build to work in this season, but since we are using the seasonal modifiers, I do want to address the modifiers here for people who likes to use the modifiers. So let's do that first before I show you the build. Now, as for the modifiers, like I already mentioned, you don't really need the modifiers for the build to work really well. However, I will talk about the modifiers that I'm using. Like, I'm using the security link as my active modifier because whenever I activate this, I'm going to gain a lot of total armor. So I'm going to feel a lot more tankier, and also will gain a tier 5 in stamina tier, which will help with the passive modifiers that I'm using. Now, if you're using it on heroic content or something, you can go for more damage with like assault link here. But for harder tier content like master and like legendary, the security link will do really good. And for my passive modifiers, I'm using the safety first here, which gives me plenty of hazard protection when you activate this. So it'll help you not bleed from the backfire if you don't like that red screen, because we're not relying on the backfire bleed all the time. The gear set gives you the mask stacks, and then we also have the loaded up, which gives you a lot of crit damage, which when you reach at tier 5 in firearms, which will go there eventually because you are already starting with 3, so no need to worry about that. And as for the extra padding, which is the third passive modifier there, we're going to gain a lot of protection from elite. So the moment you activate the modifier, you're going to feel a lot more tankier with this. So that's the modifier I'm using. Now, as for the weapons, of course, I'm using the Backfire SMG. I'm sure you guys seen a lot of content creators making a Backfire build lately and calling it a meta. In my opinion, it was always the meta. It was never not the meta. I've been saying this for ages. I have my Striker build with the Backfire like a couple of years ago that I made, and then I have my own directive build, Foundry Bulwark build, no bleed Backfire. I just love the weapon. That's what I'm trying to say. I love using this weapon. It is a great weapon. It deals a lot of damage, gives you a lot of crit damage. You don't even have to build up the full stacks. It still shreds. Now, there is a bleed effect. I know a lot of people don't like that bleed screen, like the red screen, but honestly, if you can get past it, it's a great weapon. And if you at full stacks, you don't bleed. And with this build, you have a very high hazard protection with the active modifiers and stuff. You're not going to bleed that much, like maybe like a half a second. Again, like I said, if you can get past that bleed, it's probably the best SMG in the game. Now, as for the secondary weapon, I'm using the Cold Relations. I love this weapon, so I'm using it. I don't really use it that much. I just have it equipped so I don't have to show you my Lexington and flex it again, Some people get upset about that, so I have 2 of them, by the way, so I'm not going to do that this time, don't worry. So yeah, that's my weapons. Now, as for the build, this is the build over here. As you can see, it's a very simple and easy build to make. We have 4 pieces of Hunter's Fury over here, and obviously the Catalyst Mask and a high-end piece of your choice. Now, I went with more survivability here. You could go for even more survivability, adding more blue core armor, or you just go all red. Honestly, I won't recommend all red nowadays. Enemies do hit a lot harder. They are more aggressive. So honestly, I won't recommend all red. But then again, there are people who likes to run a lot of red cores, and there's people likes to run a lot of blue cores. So I'm going to leave this choice to you guys. All I can say here is that the amount of damage I'm doing, which is like 1.1 to 1.2 million crits on body, that is happening with this exact same setup. So if you change anything over here, your damage will vary, okay? I'm going to leave at that. That's all I can say. Now, as for the pieces of the Hunter's Fury, I actually chose the backpack over the chest piece is because the chest piece will increase the duration of the second half of the buff from 10 seconds to 30 seconds, which is nice. However, the backpack is more valuable for this particular setup. Is because the backpack will increase the range of the Apex Predator buff from 5 meters to 10 meters. Means whenever you take down an enemy, they get disoriented. I mean, the other enemies within 5 meters get disoriented. This will increase that meter from 5 to 10. So it's basically going to double that out. So that means even more enemies can get disoriented when you take down one enemy. So that's pretty good. I mean, it's good for kind of like crowd control in a way, but also it's great for your Catalyst Mask, because your Catalyst Catalyst Mask requires that status effect to build up these stacks, right? With this gear set, you're always causing status effect once you get a kill. And because of this backpack, that range will increase, basically get double. So even more enemies will be able to get that disorient status effect. That means your mask will trigger that and get that stacks really quickly, and also will keep that stacks active basically forever. Because at one point, your Backfire SMG will stop bleeding you once it has full stacks, and then you'll no longer be able to generate the stacks for your mask. This is how you can get the stacks for your mask active at all times. You get the kills, you apply the disorient, and because of the backpack, their range is increased, and that means more enemies are getting disoriented, and your mask is keeping the buff active. Like that. So basically, that's the reason why I chose the backpack. Now, if I show you my stats here, we have weapon damage, crit damage, and crit damage, a mod on the backpack. Now, if you don't know what Hunter's Fury does, or if you're a new player, let me just give you a brief over here. Like, 2-piece gives you shotgun damage and SMG damage 15%, which is nice, and that's why we're using the SMG there. And 3-piece gives you 20% armor on kill and 50% health on kill. It used to be 100%, but they nerfed it, but whatever. So yeah, we have that. Now, 4-piece is the Apex Predator Talon. What happens is whenever you're within 15 meters of the enemy, you'll see a red marker on them. That means you have an amplified damage buff, which is 20%. So 20% amplified damage. However, when you keep taking down targets, you will get even more amplified damage stacks upon you, which is 5% up to 5 times. So that's extra 25% of amplified damage for taking down 5 targets. So you can keep this buff for only 10 seconds. And that's why I said the chest piece will keep it up for 30 seconds. So that's kind of nice. However, when you just kind of run in and gun in, this will not matter. You're always going to keep the buff like that. As long as you have enemies around and you're taking them down, you will increase the buff. So basically, you're going to have 45% of amplified damage from the gear set, which is pretty good. Now, as for the other pieces, you can see my gloves has armor and crit chance. For the knee pads, I have weapon damage and crit damage. And for the holster, I have weapon damage and crit damage. So that's my 4-piece of Hunter's Fury. Now, as for the Catalyst Mask, well, I already talked about the mask a lot in my previous build videos. If you haven't watched them or you just don't know what the mask does, let me give you a brief here. By the way, you don't get any crit chance or crit damage as an attribute, so keep that in mind. You need to use a crit chance mod or crit damage mod, depends on your build. Now, as for the Talon Chemical Agent, this is where all the magic happens. I'm not going to bother reading everything. I'm just going to give you a little brief how this thing works. Basically, you gain 24% weapon damage and status effect from this mask. And how do you do that? Well, that is by applying status effect on the enemy or to yourself. You get 1 stacks per second when you apply status effect on the enemy, and that's going to happen from your gear set, which is when you take down a target, you're going to disorient the nearby enemies, and that will trigger this particular effect. So you can keep that stacks active basically all the time. And for the other one, which is 2 stacks per second, that's going to happen when you bleed yourself from the Backfire SMG. That's why you gain the stacks so quickly, because the moment you trigger the bleed, you're going to gain that stacks instantly, and that's going to happen all the time. Now, there is a mechanic where you lose the stacks, which is 1 stacks per second after 5 seconds of no status effect is applied on any enemies or to yourself, but that's never going to happen. You're either going to bleed yourself or you're going to take down enemies and disorient the nearby enemies, so you don't have to worry about losing stacks unless you're running around from like a point A to point B. You're going somewhere and not taking down any target or shooting your SMG and reloading then. But most of the time, you're always going to have the stacks active. Now, you do gain bonus armor and reload speed as well when you at max stacks and take down target. That's happening every 5 seconds, which is nice. Bonus armor, reload speed, not bad, not bad. But yeah, that's basically the Catalyst Mask here. Now, as for the chest piece, this is where I feel like a lot of you guys will have different opinion about it, which is fine. I'm choosing the steelwork here because of the 10% armor on kill, is because we have 40% armor on kill on the build because of this, 20% from the gear set, 10% from obviously the steelwork chest piece, and also 10% from the gunner specialization. Now, that 40% may seem a lot, but trust me, that is a pretty good amount of it, and it has helped me a lot. Like, you play very aggressively with this build, and you're going to lose the armor a lot. And when you do lose your armor from enemy fire, you can just get 1 kill and pretty much back in combat, because the moment you get 1 kill, you're going to gain 40% armor back, but also you're going to be disorienting the enemies. That means they're pretty much stunned. So the second kill is even easier to get. And after you get the second kill, you're going to get 40% more armor back. And that means you're basically almost at full armor and you're back in the combat. You're back in the fight. So you can keep repeating this play style and just keep going like that. that. It's very simple, very easy to play. And the talent I chose here is Obliterate here. Now, as for the chest piece, this is where I feel like a lot of you guys will have different opinion about it, which is fine. I'm choosing the steelwork here because of the 10% armor on kill, is because we have 40% armor on kill on the build because of this, 20% from the gear set, 10% from obviously the steelwork chest piece, and also 10% from the gunner specialization. Now, that 40% may seem a lot, but trust me, that is a pretty good amount of it. And I'm choosing the steelwork here because it's set and forget. You don't have to rely on anything. You don't have to worry about bonus armor. You don't have to worry about a pulse. You don't have to worry about anything. Fire the weapon, you gain the stacks, you build up the damage. Simple as that. We have crit damage, crit chance, and crit damage mod for the chest piece. So yeah, that's pretty much the build over here. I am using a Banshee Pulse not to build up the stacks for the Catalyst Mask. I mean, it will help you build up the stacks for the Catalyst Mask. However, we're using it more like kind of like stunning the enemies when you're surrounded. Just use the Pulse, just stun them, take them down, get those armor and kills, and that's it basically. So it's for that. And now if I show you my stats over here, you can see I have 65% crit chance, which is obviously over the cap of 60, but it is useful. Like, it is actually getting used in this particular season with the modifiers and stuff. You can get like 80% crit chance with this build if you build up the modifiers and you like activate them, which is kind of crazy. And it is kind of fun to see all those crit numbers constantly. It does work, and you'll see those like million like that, all the crit numbers all the time constantly, which is honestly really amazing to watch. So yeah, that's not bad here. However, if you're using this build on a different season, you might want to drop that crit chance and get some crit damage there. It should be fine. So yeah, now crit damage wise, yeah, we have very high crit damage, especially from the backfire. You get 200%, so 332% crit damage basically, so quite a lot. Now, as for the defensive stats, well, we do have the armor and kill, like I said, 40% there. We don't have any impression from elite, but with the modifiers, you will gain some. And also the hazard protection is fairly decent at the start. And with the modifier, you're going to be sitting at like 85 or something % of hazard protection, which is again quite a lot. So you don't have to worry about the backfire bleed staying with you for a while and giving you a red screen, which I'm pretty sure most people don't like it. So you don't have to worry about that. You will lose the bleed very quickly, but you will bleed enough to build up the stacks. So that's the good thing about the build. And it does a lot of damage, obviously. So whether you're playing solo or you're playing in a group, you can do legendary. Like I said, you can actually do legendary with this, but you do need some group members to help you out, clan members, friends, and stuff. So yeah, you can do that. And yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, peace.